What was the most ducked up thing you saw in school? I had a friend that was allergic to so many things he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day, failed a test, some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die and proceeded to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. A kid jumped over the balcony to try and beat the rush on mashed potato day. He broke both his legs. Did not get his potatoes. In 1st grade, a boy pulled his pants and underwear to below his knees and laid down on his back. Then a girl spat on him. I don't remember why, but I will never forget that sight. A kid clipped the tip of his tongue off with a pair of safety scissors after someone dared him to. I saw the PE teacher getting a heart attack during class and dying. It was ducking scary. A couple ducking in the dumpster behind the cafeteria. For the rest of the year, people would walk up behind the dude crinkling paper and asking if it was getting him hard. Just to add a bit, 4 or 5 of my friends and I stumbled upon this event while we were coming back on campus, and one of them went to throw his trash away. It got around the school pretty damn fast. It's probably a good thing that I'm old enough that the smartphone wasn't a thing when I was in high school, because there's a good shot that one of the group would have been dumb and taken a picture that included a 17-year-old having sex. Some kid kept eating in the sink every week and they had to keep cleaning it up. One day I walked in the bathroom and someone had put it on the wall. A girl had diarrhea and was wearing tights and sitting in class, and the tights started getting really lumpy, but she didn't get up to go to the bathroom. Some girl broke up with a guy, so he smeared his it on her locker and pissed all over it. Watched 2 girls get into a fight. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chainmail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere. The girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath, holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was ducking Mortal Kombat in real life. A giant hawk swooped down on campus and sunk its talons into the back of a squirrel foraging for acorns about 20 or 25 yards from me. Scared the bejesus out of me. He stood on it like a boss for a few seconds and then flew off with it. This was at like 7:30 in the morning, so it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. The guy walking in front of me spun around and said, "Please tell me you saw that." Many years ago I sat next to a kid in high school who went on to kill his mom. He would always bring in photos of homemade bombs from 2-liter bottles, flamethrowers from squirt guns, etc. I thought it was the coolest thing and was so impressed by it until later on, when I recognized I was encouraging it to be murderer to keep being violent. A girl was coming back from a doctor's appointment and wasn't there to hear that we couldn't get out equipment for recess. She opened the door, grabbed something and went to leave. The wind kicked up and slammed the door on her hand and she lost a finger. They rushed her to the hospital and they sewed it back on and eventually it was back to normal, but that was the most ducked up thing I had seen. A kid hung himself on a playground our senior year. I hear his brother found him. This all happened a week after 2 of the brother's friends, also seniors, died when they wrapped their classic Mustang around a tree near the HS. Made for a rough senior year to say the least. Saw a girl stomp on another girl's jaw with her high-heel boot for looking at her boyfriend at the next lunch table over. I heard she had to get her jaw wired. When I was 8 we were making cookies in class and they gave us square cheese graters to make chocolate chips with. Because they didn't trust us with knives, a fair judgment. Some kid was holding a few graters and pretended to be a robot. This girl shouted at him because he wasn't a robot and proceeded to take one of the graters and grate his hand. Lots of blood happened and then a pair of twins both fainted. We, entire school, watched some guy jump from 12th floor. We had this girl in our school who was a year older than me. I didn't knew her very well, but we sometimes made small talk. Soon I noticed she wasn't in school anymore, so I assumed she moved or something like that. 5 months later she came back to school, completely covered in self-harm scars, and by that I don't mean just the arms or legs, chest, her neck. Her hands and even her back had multiple scars. She avoided everyone and became a loner. Once I was going to the bathroom during the lesson, and when I opened the door she was standing there cutting herself and crying. I was mortified but sat next to her and just held her. We sat there for 20 minutes before a teacher came and quickly called the ambulance. BC, she bled so much that we sat in a puddle of her blood. I will never forget how much she cried when medicals wanted to help her up, but she let out the most blood-freezing scream I ever heard. They had to restrain her so they could take her to a hospital. I sat there for some more time and just stared at my bloody appearance. I got sent home and just showered and went to bed. She was admitted to a mental hospital where I visited her, and she is doing much better now there. I visit her regularly and we became great friends. The boys in my class bred mold in one of the lockers. They managed to get milk so moldy. Some yellow fluid was all around it. It was a rival football game and the stands were packed. A section of the old wood bleachers collapsed and 20 or so students went to the hospital with numerous broken bones, concussions, and lacerations of various degrees. During the same game, I saw a guy get hit so hard in the leg that it shattered and both bones were showing. Poor kid ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of the school year. These two kids got into a fight at my school. Somewhere during the tussle one kid lost his balance and on the way down threw the meanest uppercut ever. He connected on the other kid's bare teeth and pushed them into his gums. He ducked up his own hand really bad. Blood just everywhere and no teachers in sight for like another 3 minutes. In college, a guy dressed as Gandalf came into the classroom and said "Thou shalt not pass," then left. It was right before finals. Someone's phone blew up in our school courtyard. Rest of the day smelled like battery juice. In my school there was a kid, or multiple kids, we don't know, who would eat in a urinal every once in a while. They were known as the urinalator. Someone made a meme with the Grim Reaper going to the doors template with all the bathrooms they had done it in, and the Reaper going into the last bathroom, the office bathroom. The meme spread very quickly and I guess some teachers saw it. Since there is blood in the meme, coming from under all the closed doors, they decided it was a credible threat of violence. They closed the school for 2 days for safety concerns. Just a super weird story all around. A guy literally eating on a teacher's desk. A girl with bulimia tried to shout down a spiral staircase, but because her gag reflex was so weak she vomited from a great height instead. Oh, the splash. We were in 4th grade and class just let out for a 5-minute break. I was with a group of girls and we walked into the bathroom. On the far wall was a giant ring of it painted in the shape of a heart. There was even visible undisguised food in the fesses that, for some reason, is burned into my memory. There was a kind of a witch hunt. The principal called out students in the hallway, one by one, to question the kids. No one confessed as far as I remember, but there was a lot of suspicion surrounding a boy who liked to talk about butts and flatulence. I'm not even sure that he did it, but make too many arsehole jokes in class and something like this happens. You are suspect number 1. I was in 9th grade. One of our classmates got drunk, stripped and streaked the lunchroom, gymnasium, basically any place crowded. The staff was afraid to tackle a naked teenager so we all got an eyeful. Middle school. I was chilling in the band room and I look out to the hall to see a kid with some sort of liquid coming out of his eye. Later I found out some kid stabbed his eye with a pencil. Saw 3 little dudes try to jump this massive mountain of a guy in the cafeteria. He fended them off pretty good till the teachers who were football coaches managed to break it up. There was a ginger vegan that would chew carrots up in his mouth and chase people around, spitting carrots at them. He ended up getting his head slammed into a bag hook in a fight afterwards. In high school a guy punched a girl in the face, slammed her head into the wall, and threw her on the ground. He was big and mean enough that the adults just froze in their tracks. There was one kid in my high school that everyone bullied relentlessly. He was pretty overweight and nerdy but a good kind-hearted person in general. One really popular girl, possibly hottest and meanest in the whole school, decided to humiliate him, so she seduced him and told him to wait for her in the bathroom stall. When she met him over there she lifted her shirt and told him to drop his pants. When he exposed himself she pulled out her phone and snapped a picture, then sent it to everyone she could, telling everyone he was creeping on her, and flashed her. He got suspended and was gonna be prosecuted. Few days later he hit her with his car, leaving her paralyzed, and then killed himself. This story is completely made up, but thanks for all the karma. There was a girl I was friends with who had developed early and had pretty big boobs and considered thick for a 5th grader. Hanged with a group of 5 or 6 girls. Most of the girls in this group were short, skinny, and the pretty ones of the class, so she stuck out from that group. During recess these 5 girls ganged up on her and pulled down, sometimes ripping her shirt, exposing her chest, and laugh cause they thought it was funny. She'd fight it and tell them to stop, but they'd do it even more, sometimes pinning her arms to the side so they could. She ended up hanging out with me more and finding different friends in middle school. So ducked up on a funny way. 2 guys were yelling in the hallway and it was about to come to blows. Guy 1 goes back to swing at Guy 2 and proceeds to miss by mile into another girl. Girl kicks Guy 1 square in the balls. He falls back into another student, and then it dominoes into the crowd that had gathered around. The teacher that was in the way came running up and slipped on something and went into the air and landed straight on his back. I swear it was like something in a movie. No one was really hurt, but God, that series of events was timed perfectly. I was in HS in the 90s. They announced the OJ verdict over the PA system. Someone found our choir teacher in a Pornhub video. He had to come to school the next day, but he couldn't teach class, so he was just aimlessly walking around school all day. By that time, everyone had either seen the video or they knew about it. He eventually got fired. The troubled kid had a panic attack because of a teacher. I think he had some issues at home. He was quiet, talked to no one. He always fought when people bothered him. He was something. Well, anyways, there was this teacher. She was really strict and got aggravated easily. Let's call her MRS. Well, we used to call her that, but she had asked him a question and he refused to answer. His head down looking at his empty paper. The teacher exploded on him, telling him stuff like, "You will never be anything in life, and do your parents even love you?" He sat next to me and I saw that he clenched his fists and started to shake. He tried to say something, but it all came out to be gibberish because he broke down right there on his desk. No one really knew him, so we didn't know what to do. We all just sat there as the teacher kept on insulting him, not caring that he had started to shake. A nearby teacher heard all the commotion and came to check on us and saw it. She calmly talked to the still yelling MRS whale outside as we just awkwardly sat there watching this kid break down. He did nothing. I really wish I would have done something, but I was frozen in place. After MRS whale calmed down, the other teacher helped the kid out to the office. We never saw that kid and MRS whale after that. They said MRS whale had retired early, but I don't think so. We had this real pervy dude who later threatened to shoot up the school. He would constantly grab girls and harass people, and eventually he decided to duck around with the sister of 2 identical twin brothers who are nearly 6'6". Needless to say, they tore him apart. Hit him so hard his shoe flew off, then beat him for another 30 seconds. He was covered in blood, could hardly walk, and had his other shoe stolen by the twins. As they were being escorted out in cuffs, everyone started cheering and yelling to free them. Edit. Spelling. Edit. So upon talking to a friend who was there, they broke his arm and gave him a concussion. Nothing that I personally saw at my high school was disturbingly ducked up. Just weird. Some kid smuggled in a bunch of onions and clogged all the downstairs toilets with them. Who the hell does that? Some dumbass kid stuck a pair of tweezers in an old outlet that didn't even have a circuit breaker, so I DK how he didn't die. My middle school teacher did a thing where we could bring our pets to school. A kid in my class got attacked by a macaw after he tried to grab it off a desk so he could play with it and had to go to the hospital to get stitches. I was suspended and grounded for bringing a macaw to school. My friend's uncle had recently shot and gutted a deer. We decided to bring the severed deer head to school and unlocked the trophy cabinet and stuck the head in amongst the other trophies. In school suspension for all involved. Saw a kid throw a pickleball paddle at a gym teacher. Knocked her unconscious. Blood everywhere. He was suspended for some time. Was an asshole. I didn't actually witness this, but I was at school for it. A friend of mine had a seizure in the swimming pool during PE. I was on the field when it happened and I saw a bunch of emergency personnel rush the scene. Turned out, it was the first time he was actually allowed to swim in PE. He had a medical history that deterred his family and peers from allowing him in the pool, but it turns out it was a fatal decision. I'm told there was some scuffle on the other end of the pool that distracted most of the students in the class and no one saw him sink below the surface until it was too late. While I didn't personally witness that scene, I am deeply concerned for those that did. Rest in peace, John. You are missed, loved and thought about every day. P.S. I still see that pay teacher every week at my job. She's the sweetest lady and I've never stopped feeling terrible for her. Edit. Wow. I was not expecting this much traffic. Thanks guys. Not desperately ducked up, but the best prank played on a teacher I know of was when my younger brother found a giant test tube in the cupboards up the back of the chemistry lab. He farted in it, sealed it with his hand, then walked up to the teacher and asked what experiment had been done in it because it had a funny smell. Teacher naturally took an inquisitive sniff. I went to school in Southern California. Our school had 2 rival gangs along with a dozen or so full-time bouncers with nightsticks. We had KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and a standard cafeteria to choose from for lunch. This day I decided to eat in the cafeteria. As I walk in, I see a tall skinny black guy punch this Latino chick in the face. She stayed down for maybe a second and got up a completely different person. Fueled by pure rage alone, she turned and focused all of her attention on the guy that hit her. He was still celebrating his short-lived victory when both of her feet left the floor and she flew at him. She punched his face repeatedly as he tried to block the repeated blows being rained down on him by this little ball of fire. Now keep in mind, she was a good 6-8 inches shorter than he was. In one seemingly fluid motion, she wrapped an arm around his head, planted both feet, and she straight up suplexed him, WWE style, into a table, and let him drop to the floor on the other side. By the time one of the guards made it in, the black dude had snuck away in shame and everything else was back to normal as though nothing had happened. I went to grab some pizza instead. There was quite a trend with snorting sugar looking powders for parts of my 11th grade year. It started with pixie stick dust and draining the color out of them or adding something to get that white hue. Became so common that everybody shooting it up thought it came from the pixie sticks. At some point I went into the bathroom during this trend and ran into a distributor, fellow student, crushing an amorphous hardened liquid type substance on the hand wash counter. I have no idea if he was on something, but I asked what that was since it didn't look like the pixie it I was used to seeing. He actually said he ran out of money and time to buy those sticks and manually turn the contents white, and has since been going into the bathroom, jerking off onto a piece of glass, hides the glass, comes back later in the day to wait for it to harden, then crushes the hardened cum, and sells that off. I said, oh, and I walked out. What's strange is I often feel my biggest regret at that moment was not washing my hands before I left. I had a Scottish teacher and an Irish teacher in 5th grade, and they were great mates. I got along well with both of them as well, so as I was leaving for the weekend I went and told them to have a good weekend. They told me the same. Anyway, when I got to school on the Monday, neither was there, which was odd. Then the next day the same story. This went on for about a week, and I was starting to get worried. Then about a week after, we had an assembly, where we found out that the Scottish teacher was a fugitive. What happened was on the Saturday after I wished them a good weekend, they went out for a party and got drunk. They then went over to Irish teacher's place, where they got into an argument. Scottish teacher got pissed and punched Irish teacher, who had heart problems, in the chest. He promptly died. Scottish teacher left, got his fiancée and fled the country, presumably back to Scotland. In high school, knew a kid who was a legitimate crackhead. Stated arguing with on the security guards one day and ended up punching a security glass window hard enough to crack it. Pretty sure he broke multiple bones in his hand. Also didn't see but heard about a girl in a gangbang in one of the stairwells. No one wanted to use it after the new came out. Not physically ducked up, but my principal tried to use the Parkland shooting to make our school look good. Our school's GSA has scheduled a walkout on the National Walkout Day. For the last period of the day, we had made posters, and there was even a script prepared for us to call law representatives. The Tampa Bay Times asked if they could come and take photos for an article on National Walkout Day. The principal said yes. In fear of us looking bad because the walkout was organized by a bunch of gay kids, our principal scheduled his own walkout. We were all required to attend. It was in the courtyard, not even off campus, and we basically stood there while my principal talked about how great we were because we hadn't had a shooting. He told the reporter to come for that one. The leader of XR told the reporter to come back for theirs, but the principal got mad at her. He said that if the reporter came back for the second one, later in the day, he'd call the police on the guy for trespassing. Later, he accused all of the kids who'd gone to the actual walkout of being rowdy and tried to suspend us all. TLDR, my principal was in a chat about the Parkland shooting and kept us from getting any progress done. Happy Cake Day. Some guys came in one day to show off some Viking armory, weapons and clothes. One of them went a little too far with the accuracy and his balls were on full display while he demonstrated stuff to us. We were all sitting down so we could all see it. We didn't say anything at the time, but we told the teachers later and they didn't give a it. Really weird stuff. I seen a teacher have a literal mental breakdown in front of an entire class. He was our English teacher and was in charge of looking after the kids that other teachers wouldn't deal with. I guess one day he just snapped, stood up, threw a chair at a pupil and started punching holes in walls and screaming in a really psychotic manner. The teacher next door heard the commotion and realized pretty quickly what was happening. She came in and persuaded him to go with her to the staff room or something, and we never seen him again. Someone wrote on 4/20 there will be blood on the wall. I don't know if it was a joke or not, and thankfully, due to corona, I'll never find out. Story 2. I was in Belgium at the time. During first grade, our school had 3 playgrounds, a forest area, a large sandbox park area, and an open field. Cut to me and my friends walking through the forest area, just hanging out. Something glitters in my eye and I look down and there's a bullet shell, like a solid 4-5 inch long shell. I pick it up and go to the principal, and he's like, oh yeah mate, it's fine. Obligatory. We were speaking Flemish but I don't think y'all would be interested. So I'm like, oh cool, can I keep it? My guy said yes. Brought it home and showed it off and I thought it was super cool, but looking back I'm like, WTF. TLDR. Found the bullet in first grade. Principal let me keep it. A kid in my biology class accidentally stabbed his face with scissors. Then another kid chased him out of the room with a microscope slide to catch a few drops of blood. So he took his blood covered slide and the teacher resignedly let us see the red blood cells still moving around. The stabbed kid was fine. A few stitches and he was good to go. I had a religion teacher in high school named Mr. Nguyen, who was working on becoming a Jesuit priest and was a really cool guy. He always had a smile on his face and did his best to make class a fun experience for everyone. There was a kid in my class who was a really annoying smartass, but Mr. Nguyen was always really patient with him, until one day he pushed him too far. I forgot exactly what the kid said, but it definitely crossed the line. Mr. Nguyen slammed his fists on his desk and shouted, "Why can't you ever shut the duck up?" He then picked up his stapler and chucked it at the kid, missing his head by a few inches and leaving a huge dent in the wall, and then stormed out into the hallway. I had never seen a teacher blow up like that and I definitely never expected it from him. In high school my senior year, the school went on lockdown for a gun threat and I was outside of the classrooms due to just arriving to school because I didn't have a first period class. Went to the closest class when it was announced but it was locked. I started freaking out a bit, found the vice principal and he proceeded to yell at me for being outside and told me to go to my next class by myself. Well, my second period class, the teacher had prep period the first period and therefore was not there. I'm legit freaking out now. Enough that my hands are shaking and I actually dropped my binder and losing papers because I dropped it down the stairs, but managed to get a small group of us kids not knowing what the duck to do and trying to find a small place to hide. I consider just taking a random kid up on giving me a ride home. Vice principal finds us and yells at us, specifically more so at me for not being in a classroom. We get put into the office for the next few hours and they find the kid with the gun in the gym, where my sister was actually locked down and as she had pay. I realized how ducked up it was that they let me just wander around the campus trying to figure out where the hell to go as everything was locked while they had SWAT going through the buildings room to room. The white dove they released for Peace Day got immediately snatched mid-flight by a red-tailed hawk. This was in elementary school.